Hi, everybody. This is Wise Thrice, and I guess I'm going to start a section of videos on my YouTube channel about things that aren't specifically related to Druidry or to Hermetic practice, but things that are just things I've encountered that are interesting or I feel are supplemental to my spiritual practice and my daily living. And one of those actually is me bumping into somebody who has a ministry of his own, and he has a page up, which I'll put a link up to. And it's not the kind of thing you first hear of when you hear the words ministry, because, you hear the words ministry and immediately you think Christian, right? Because that's the dominant religion in the culture we're in, and that's how people perceive things. But we had an extremely interesting conversation, and I hope that I cleared up some misunderstandings because this person and I had a contact in common. And the big thing I'm bringing this up about is how in the modern era we try to communicate with all these devices and all these media. They're supposed to make us closer together, but what it really kind of does is allows us to stab each other in the back and not feel any guilt about it. Long story short, there was a Facebook group that I was in as Wise Thrice, and again, trying to protect my anonymity because of my life situation, I was there anonymously. And in that group, there was another person who was not using their real name. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold as I record. And we got into a tiff because of a very different outlook on some issues. The first issue we got to a tiff over was over magical ethics. Specifically, they were much more willing to cross the hexing line than I was. My general rule of thumb has been, if I shouldn't hit it with a stick, I probably shouldn't lay a hex on it. But they were not of that opinion. They were in an opinion of a much more proactive thing because they felt it was moral to do so. They felt that by doing so, they helped protect the world, help protect the resources, protect the wildlife they were concerned about. I did not feel that way, and I tried to have an intelligent conversation debating the merits of these back and forth. And either somehow I didn't phrase it right or it wasn't taken right because they got offended. Well, about 2 weeks after that, the Chick-fil-A anti-gay scandal happened. And this person that was involved was very much upset with Chick-fil-A for doing what they're doing. And I tried to counter that Chick-fil-A being owned by very evangelical Christians, what did you expect? And that they weren't doing anything that under the laws are illegal. And more importantly, there was no proof of actual discrimination at the time that this argument happened. That may have since changed. Honestly, I think that actually has been like over a year or so more ago, so I'm not up to date on what's been found. But specifically, it was the Chick-fil-A pulling their funding from Jim Henson's, I believe it was Jim Henson's company, because Jim Henson's company supported gay rights. Chick-fil-A being owned by evangelical Christians, they felt uncomfortable. And I was trying to bring up to this person who had the gay rights issue that anybody involved in business has the right of free association. I mean, after all, if it were a pagan organization and one of their contributors they suddenly found out was trying to run camps or evangelicals to convince you that anything pagan was wrong, that pagan organization might want to pull their funding from that group. But again, either I didn't phrase it right or what I was trying to argue didn't come across right, and this person got offended again. Well, flash forward after that about a month, and we have another head-to-head on Facebook. And I forget exactly what this one was about because I don't have it in front of me. But I seem to recall it being about something, I want to say it was interpersonal. A friend that I and the person we were disagreeing with both had in common. That we kind of went loggerheads and bam, just sparks flew. And after that, they left one of the Facebook groups that we were both in. So this brings me back to this person I just met. I was at a social event watching a play, and while I was there, I ended up sitting next to this guy. And he looked vaguely familiar, but I said to myself, nah, it can't be. There's no way. The world is not that small. Yeah, let this be a lesson. When you're not looking, Coyote likes to play tricks on you. And there I was, sitting next to this guy, and a big guy, I mean, huge guy, and he looks for all the world like what I'm seeing as the picture of the moderator of one of the groups that I was in. And I'm like, it can't be, it can't be. But eventually, being friendly, he introduces himself to me. He goes, "Hi, I'm Ron." And I look at him and go, "Okay, I'm such and such." And I look at him and go, "Ron French?" And at this point, he looks at me and goes, "Yeah." And he's getting suspicious because of the nature of his faith. He often has problems with evangelicals, as you can imagine. And he apparently thought maybe I was going to convert him or something like that, or try. And I was like, okay, I'm such and such. And when he realized I was Wise Thrice, he started laughing because he knows this other person I had the disagreement with. And so we ended up talking for about, I'd say on and off, about an hour, hour and a half, between intermissions in the play and afterward, and having just a good old time. And it was very clear that as the two of us talked, we were actually interacting as equals. And this is what brought it up to me, was that here I am interacting with this person that when I had first met him by his Facebook persona and by his videos that he puts out, I had one impression of him. And after I met him in person and I got to talk with him, we had a more detailed conversation than one way. I had a whole different idea of him. And so it's led me to this whole commentary that I want to talk to you about, I guess we should call this everyday topics or something. If I take it, I'll come up with the title for this playlist later. But it brought me up this idea of the difference between actually having a face-to-face interaction, which is very rare, unfortunately, in the pagan community, especially if you belong to an order that's spread out all across the United States like I do, or having to solely go by the internet. Now, one of the best things that happened to paganism was the advent of Llewellyn publications. And I know, I can hear you gritting your teeth with that because of some of the books that Llewellyn has published. But because Llewellyn was willing to publish and was willing to distribute and was willing to go out there and take it on the chin, we had a revival of paganism across the United States. This combined with the very do-it-yourself 101 method of most of their books that they published in the early days led to everybody kind of making up their own thing, led to a bunch of people just going out and trying it ad hoc and seeing what would happen. And that was basically our infancy here as I experienced it. And say what you like about some of the problems that gave us, it got us started, okay? So you have that aspect of modern-day paganism. Now, without that, you would have stayed in the whole thing of, well, you have to have this as traditional teacher, it's only by invite only. And you still have very small groups and places that are meeting in somebody's house or meeting in secret with certain passwords and decoder rings and really cool cloaks that show you belong to the club. And no one would know the word Wicca. No one would know the word Druidry. No one would know the word Hermetics. None of this would be known. If we stayed in that approach, Asatru would not be a growing religion, and just things would be far different, and we'd all still be living in the fear of the cross's shadow. So that happened because of the diffusion of information. As I look at how I got involved in Hermetics, and as I look at how other people have gotten involved, unless you were fortunate enough to have a parent that was involved, you generally came to it as a late teenager, early 20-something. You read a few books, you went out, you tried something, and you found some other people that thought it might be interesting. And most of them came and went. Most of them are what we call party pagans, fluffy bunnies. You know all the words, and you've met the kind of person. But those who are serious and have stuck with it have long lamented that there is a dearth of people that just don't get the actual dedication that what we're trying to do would do. And as I was talking with Ron, it occurred to me that although he's on a much different path than mine, he has that level of dedication. He has that level of thought. He has that level of logical consistency that gives you a theology, which is kind of what I'm trying to do with these audio recordings. Now, that's not to say that Druidry doesn't have a theology. It does. In fact, one of the best summations of Druid theology you can find in the back of Skip Ellison's book on Oyam, where he goes through a short thing of what he feels most Druids believe. And I read it, and it was spot on with everything that I've ever heard from any Druid order, be it Obad, be it Oda, be it the Hingicultria, you name it, ADF, it's pretty much spot on about what Druids are trying to do. And I look at how we're diffusing information now over the internet, and I see the advantage of it is easy access to source material and easy access to notable commentators. I mean, you can go on most podcasts and hear John Michael Greer talking about what he feels Druidry is. When he was still alive, you go on podcasts and find Isaac Bonowitz and what he felt Druidry was supposed to be. And this is a good thing. But I'm wondering why we don't take that level of information access and tutelage and transfer it to small study groups or rings of people that are in communication. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying that it's not as prominent as someone going to the bookstore, going to Amazon, picking up Wicca 101 and starting their coven. And again, I'm speaking in all these podcasts from my experience. This is what I have seen. This is what I have felt. And the result is, every time you go to a different pagan group or you're invited, not only are the rituals and the liturgy different, not only may the structure be completely different, but the intent of the people present is different. And so it's hard to find anyone of depth that you can discuss and bounce an idea off of. In fact, what usually happens, in my experience, is that unless you're fortunate enough to belong to a very large order, and they have a website and a forum post, you're kind of screwed, and you're having to listen to either Uncle Alistair talking his books about, what Thelema is, or you're looking through Raymond Buckland's stuff and you're hoping you've got it right, or you're reading through Cunningham left and right and hoping you understand it correctly, and then getting in arguments with the coven next door who read that same material the entirely different way, and the next thing you know, you're declaring pagan crusades on one another. People aren't talking to one another. You have a disagreement in a forum and knives are being stuck in your back, or if it's someone who's decided to conjure a hot foot on you, that's going on. All kinds of stuff starts happening that's just silly and pathetic and completely anathema to trying to make spiritual progress. Sorry, I'm firmly astride my high white horse now with my druid armor on and my sword of the Alwyn. Okay, but you get the idea. And so it's just kind of burning at my chaps, so I thought I'd make a quick little podcast about it, although it's apparently not so quick. It's like 13 minutes according to my recording device. Yikes! So I may have to edit that later. But think about it. Think about how in your own life, if you're fortunate enough to have contacts who are into hermetics and paganism, how you talk and what you talk about and how often you meet. At this date, it is October 21st. Is that right? Yeah, October 21st. And I am actually been fortunate enough to run a ritual for Samhain on the 27th. And we're having to do it early because some people won't be here and some people won't. And I'm also very fortunate that this ritual that I'm running, I have people who are not members of my order present, so I get to display what my order does. And again, me being a neophyte for my order, I'm not going to name it because I'm still very much in the process of trying to qualify for my next degree, and I don't want to do anything to mess it up. I don't want to say at any point that I represent what all Druids think, and especially what my order thinks, because I might have it wrong. There's a lot of Hermetic influence in me. So, anything else? No, that appears to be it that's on the Wise Thrice's mind right now. And I guess that's what we'll do for now, and I hope to see you all pretty soon as I can. Still not sure how often the podcast is going to have. I really want that voice disguiser for extra anonymity because of my situation, but at the same time, the fire in the head is just boiling and it needs to come out. And it's tired of coming out of my hand because it hurts my fingers when I type and I write. I like speaking better. I'm much more an audio person. Druid, go figure. So, I'll see you all later.